Is buying land in Florida a good investment? So welcome back. Now later on in the episode, I'm going to reveal a subset of the traditional real estate business, including land where you can buy for pennies on the dollar. So let's get started. Now my name is Ted Thomas, and I've been investing in real estate as an entrepreneur and an investor for over 30 years. Now, Florida has really changed over the last 2 decades. I mean, massively changed. The United States Census Bureau tells us that Florida now has 22 million people. It's the third largest populated state. Now, Florida expects to close to 1,000 new residents a day to come into the state. So the demographics certainly tell us, I should say support and tell us, that there's a very healthy business environment here. A lot of jobs created, up to 80,000 new jobs a year, and there's a lot of new real estate developments, and so there's just a lot of business going on, whether it's in the rural communities with land or whether it's in the more urban areas where the home building is going on. So there's a lot of building going on and a lot of new jobs. So Florida is a no-tax state. In other words, if you earn money in Florida, you certainly have to pay the federal government, but you don't have a tax to the state of Florida. So that means many people are attracted to come here from New Jersey, New York, California. In other words, places that have high state income tax, many of those people move here to Florida rather than stay in Illinois or one of those high tax states. So the Department of Economic Opportunity claims 80 to 90,000 new jobs. So certainly a place to get started again if you're a young person. Now, all of the growth and all these new people are going to keep coming. Why? Because we have good home development, the government is pro-growth, and the tax is kept low at this point. So they're a good place for you to think about doing business in the future. So that ends my Chamber of Commerce talk. So Florida is different when it comes to buying single-family home as compared to buying land. These are two different investments. All right, they're both good investments, but there's two different ways to do it. So today, in this episode, is buying land in Florida a good investment? And the answer is yes. Now, what kind of land do you want? Do you want land that you're going to graze cattle on? Do you want land you're going to cultivate and grow crops on? Do you want land that you're going to use for development? What is your planned use and what is the outcome that you're trying to get? Now, you need to figure all that out before you start buying land. Now, many people know a real estate broker that works on residential property. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't want to use a residential broker when it comes to doing land. This is a specialty way to do business. For example, you could be buying land that has a crop on it, but you're not going to get the crop. The crop probably has already been sold to someone else. So you'll buy the land, that's what you'll get, but that crop that's on it will come off, and that other person that purchased that crop will own it. Same thing could happen with timber. So it's an altogether different business than buying rental property or buying a new home or something like that. So real estate brokers with experience in land and development, they work closely together with the developers. So you want to work with one of those special people if land is what you're looking for. So land is a good investment, okay? Why is it good? Well, it's going to be good for many reasons, because when the state is growing, there's going to be less and less developable land. And as environments becomes more restrictive, you're going to have less and less land. So that land is going to become very valuable. Knowing what your outcome and what you want is probably the most important thing that you're going to do. So figure out what your outcome is, what you want to do with that land. Now, some people want to just buy it and hold it. Now, why would you buy and hold it? Some people buy and hold because they just want a protection from inflation. And generally speaking, land will go up each year very close to the same amount that the money gets inflated. So some people want to do that just to protect their money. Other people want to do it because they want to develop. Now, if you decide you want to be a developer, you need special skills and you need special people around you. It's not easy to develop land. How do you know where the water is? How do you know about land surveys? What are you going to do about thinking about getting power to it? What are you going to do about building roads? What are you going to do about building schools? There's a lot of things if you're going to develop land, and there's going to be a lot of restrictions. So I would start that process down at the city planning. That's where I would start that process, figuring out your outcome before I bought any land. I'm not a land broker. I'm only involved in a subset of the real estate business, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But land is a challenge, and it's a challenge to figure out the value. So real estate that you buy residential, you can just go up and down the street and pretty much figure out what the value of the property is. You're not going to be able to do that with land because it's different sizes. Some has water, some doesn't. Some have utilities, some doesn't. Some has good soil that you can cultivate. In other words, there's a lot to know, so you need a real estate broker and someone to help you to buy residential land or any kind of land. Now, it's not unusual for people to want to buy the land and they want to cultivate it. Well, you better know about the soil. It's not unusual that people want to develop it. Well, then you better know about development. So my point is, I'm not negative on it, but just know it's a lot different than buying a residential house where the power is already to the house, the water is already there, the values are easy to figure out. Residential real estate is really easy when it comes to buying and when it comes to selling. So if you want to buy and not have headaches, buy residential real estate. If you want to have a few headaches and learn how to do it, well, then you want to go out there and start thinking about buying land. If you're going to buy land, you're going to find out that there's a lot for you to learn. All right, now, what about taking care of property? Let's think about that. So you could purchase a rental property, have one leak in the roof, and you could end up with a house that's full of mold, and you can end up with a house that's got a lot of damage from water. What if you had a leaky toilet and it spread water all over the house? Or what if someone broke into it? So those are the challenges when you're buying houses. You have very few of those kind of challenges buying land, but what are you going to do with the land? So you've got to know what your outcome is. So I'm talking about buying land in Florida. Is it a good investment? I'm saying definitely it's a good investment. All right, so there's a lot of complications on both sides, buying residential and buying land by itself. All right, so I eliminated all that. How did I eliminate it? I eliminated it and solved the problem because what I wanted to do is I wanted to get property that I knew I could know the values of ahead of time and I could get at rock bottom prices. How on earth was I going to do that? Well, I wanted to do that, and so I kept checking, and 30 years ago, I found a business that was very lucrative, and it was a subset of the real estate business, and I didn't have to worry that when I bought that land and I was going to have to dig a well, was I going to have to go down 3,000 feet before I got water? I didn't have to worry about that. I could find residential property, or I could find residential land that someone had done, already fixed all those things, and knew what was going on. So what was that business? The business was tax defaulted real estate. These were properties that people didn't want. What do I mean they want? They didn't want to pay the taxes. So when you don't pay the taxes, there's going to be consequence. What's the consequence? Well, I'll tell you what it is. The legislature in all the states, not just Florida, has passed laws that says all property owners must pay tax. If you don't pay the tax, the legislature will go to the county and they will mandate the county board of supervisors or county commissioners to have the treasurer levy the tax, try to collect the tax, and if they can't collect the tax, the treasurer will confiscate, they'll seize that property, and they'll push the people off the property, and then they'll sell it. Now, what do they sell it for? They sell it for very close to the back taxes. Because why is the treasurer even selling it? Because they need the tax revenue. What happens to tax revenue when they get it? It pays for schools, it pays for police departments, it pays for the fire department, it pays for the hospital, it pays to fix the roads, it pays for the school teachers. You're getting the idea. So the property tax is needed. So what does the county do? They discount the property 60, 70, 80% to get rid of it. They're not going to hold on to that property. They're not going to hold on to it. Why aren't they going to hold on? Because they need the revenue to run the government. So they discount the property. So they have these auctions in every county in the United States. There's over 3,000 counties in the United States. All of the counties, including all the ones in Florida, will sell properties at a discount, sometimes at just the back taxes, at 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and they will delete the mortgage. They'll X out the mortgage, they'll delete it, they'll wipe it off the property, and you're buying the property with no mortgage or no deed of trust loan. So now you're buying it 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. That's pretty good. All right, you're getting these huge discounts, and you're getting property without a mortgage or a deed of trust loan. How does that work out? Works out across the United States, every single property. So what's going to happen in Florida? Well, in Florida, they're going to have these auctions. It doesn't matter if it's a condo on the beach or a rural property over in the middle of the state. If the taxes aren't paid, that county is going to seize the property. they don't want the property, so they will sell that property at as close to back taxes as they can. Now, it's an auction, so the auction could push the price up. For example, they might be asking $10,000 for the property, but other people come in seeing it's worth at $200,000. They might bid it up to $30 or $40 or $50 or even $100,000. People come in and bid, but the starting bid is what I'm talking about. So starting bids, we know what they are. So what do we have now? We have a stable business. We know that they're going to auction properties every year. We know they're going to have land at every one of these auctions. About 25% of all auctions will either be residential land or there'll be range land. There'll be some kind of land that you can buy. So you can buy plenty of land for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar. Now, do you have to check it out before you buy it? Yes, of course. If you don't check it, whatever you buy is what you're going to get. So you don't want to buy things that you haven't checked. Does it have water? Does it have utilities? You're going to have to put in a well. Have you already thought about the survey? All those things have to be thought about. However, the local government is going to sell that property at somewhere close to back taxes at a tax defaulted auction, and anybody can attend. All right, now I'm running out of time, and if you would like to have an auction list, or at least see what one looks like, right below me, you can just register and say, I'd like to have a sample auction list, and we'll send that to you, and you can see the actual tax assessed value and the asking price of the property. All right, now if you are going to buy properties, 2 mistakes to avoid. Mistake number 1 is don't buy a property unless you've seen it. Why? What if there was a hurricane? What if it was next to a chicken farm? What if there was a windstorm? What if there was a flood? There could be any kinds of things like that. All right. Plus, when you go look at it, you can evaluate it and you can figure out what your exit strategy is. If you don't know what you're going to sell it for, well, certainly don't buy it. A lot of people buy property, they find out they paid too much. Now you're going to be the one going to tax auction. So the point is, you want to go there, figure out what you're going to pay for it so that you'll know what to bid, but you better know what you're going to be able to sell it for. My name is Ted Thomas.